You by Bell Lifestyle Products on Newstalk Saga 960. And now, from the Bell Lifestyle Studio, here's Mike and Dave.
It is 8:12. It is a delicious hour now. Just in time for Valentine's Day. We are going to, I was going to say let you in on a secret, but I don't think it's, the only people who didn't know about the secret were the two bozos that are talking on the air right now. We're going to talk to Sarah from Daddy O Donuts, which also is a British bakery. I feel I'm getting weaker by the second, even just trying to imagine all the handcrafted, handmade goods that would come out of Daddy O Donuts. Great name. The website is awesome. And I thought, well, is there a accompanying song that would make sense going to this? And I know the Homer Simpson and all that, we get that, but we know we're a different kind of show. So I went to something that's very different and unfortunately at the same time very frightening. Listen to this.
Shall we dance?
Creepy, right?
10 donuts are dancing together. Turn around. One donut falls into a chocolate pot. Red.
Okay, so that's it. Even in terms of rap and syllables. How
many downloads does that have?
Dancing
How many
together.
downloads does that have?
200,000.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty good.
It's like one of those scary Asian horror movies where they come out of like the drain with donuts. That so Sarah, I apologize for that song. I should have said in advance that I just tried to find something, and apparently that was a massive fail, and does not represent, by the way, nor employees or ownership of Daddy O Donuts with that song whatsoever. Thank you so much for coming
Sarah
in.
Harris.
Thank you for having me.
Harris,
Thank
right
you.
there.
There we go.
Sarah, you are lovely upon walking in here. And,
Thank you.
And if I want to see a baker, better look like Sarah. That's all I can say. It's magical. It's like you're cousins of Willy Wonka somehow. This is you going in. I want the personality. I want something to and the website. Like it just jumps
Yeah,
off
the
the
website
Thank you.
really is
Thank you.
fantastic.
like it really is tremendous. So first of all, the actual location for apparently everyone, Dave and myself, who didn't know where it was. What's the location?
We're on North Service Road, just west of Cawthra, between Cawthra and Huron, Ontario.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
all
a
right.
small little plaza, but it's perfect for us.
Well, by perfect, I'm looking at the pictures of the donuts. So, you're a Mississauga girl.
Mm-hmm.
So what's high school for you? Where was high school? I always have to ask.
I went to St. Paul's High School in Mississauga. Yeah.
So a
In
Catholic girl?
Well, Port Credit. Yeah. Well, I went to Catholic school.
Okay, so guys, take it easy. I have to ask. I just had asked. And so, but where's baking come from? Is this in your family?
Well,
or-
my dad, my parents are from England, and my dad, obviously,
Yeah.
that's where the British stuff comes in. But my dad was a baker. My dad was multitasked, had many jobs. But when he was young, working in England, before they emigrated to Canada, he was a baker. And so when they moved to Canada originally, their original plan was to open a bakery. That was what he did. And because he was used to working in a bakery, he never made anything small scale. Everything was always large
No
scale.
kidding, yeah.
So I grew up with him doing that all the time. Like regardless of what it was, he was making the British stuff, sausage rolls, pies, lots of pies, always pies. Like good British pies.
Well,
you know what I mean?
as I said, when people start saying, now we know James Sharman because James Sharman now has his own pie company.
Yep.
But everybody has a little bit of a take if you're from either the UK or, in my case,
Mm-hmm.
Ireland, where my mommy makes the beautiful pies as well. It's all
Yep.
about the pastry, just so you know. And that is the key, right? People can make the filling.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. If you can do it nice and fresh, it's true. But a true, great
The best
pie?
part is usually the pastry.
Oh,
It has to be the
has to be.
pastry. And we grew up like where we were from, where my parents were from in London. They were brought up on pie and mash, which is a very London thing. If
Yes.
you haven't been there or you've never had it, it's to me that's
the stuff.
my favorite like British meal is pie and mash.
Pie and mash is your favorite.
Yeah, and I've through years of especially through ancestry and stuff, we found out we're actually related to one of the original pie and mash shops in London,
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
you're pine
So I'm
Nash
real, I got it
royalty.
in my blood,
Royalty,
right?
yeah, exactly.
You
So
and Meghan Markle could be
it's-
talking about pines.
right? Hey, she can come to my shop
Hey,
anytime.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so we started out I that was always in the house, and my parents, when they were just baking around the house, because that was a lot in the 70s, everybody did your stuff at home.
It must have smelled great in that house.
Always.
Yeah.
So, but my parents always allowed us to be involved, regardless of what mess was being made or what was done. We always had a little piece of dough or something, or we got to do the stir of the Christmas cake, because that was to make a wish,
yes.
that sort of thing.
Right.
Yes.
So that was always something that was just part of the family. That's what we did.
So the Daddy-O's Donuts, is that your parents and moving on to you, or is that?
So donuts came from, there's a couple of things that started donuts for me. Like, I have always loved donuts. And I think
Yes.
that's part of the fact that I'm like a Canadian-born girl who went to Sherway on Saturdays to do their grocery shopping and always got a Tim Hortons donut at the mall. And so donuts were always sort of part of our background. But my dad, when I was really young, made British donuts at home, which is literally just a round jam donut.
Right,
Covered
right.
in sugar. Simple. But I'd never had anything like that here. Nothing. And so that sort of like taste and feeling, nostalgic feeling for me for donuts, sort of like just lived in my brain my whole life.
Well, that's the thing about baking. When people say, why do you have this, like a crack guy going by? It's because baking has an emotional attachment.
Oh, it totally does. It's, for me, like, honestly, part of the reason I bake, it's therapy.
Sure it is.
Baking is therapy for me. I've always had ups and downs, and whenever I feel like bored or down, I bake. And it gives me the most pleasure to have somebody enjoy the food that I make. I mean, that's partially why we started this business too, is because I obviously bake a lot. I need a lot of therapy. And so I can't eat what I make, otherwise I will be 500 pounds. So I usually gave that out to people and friends and whatnot. So, but with donuts,
Good friend to have, eh?
right? Exactly. Well, I mean, at work, they loved me at work. Oh,
I
my
bet.
last job, they loved it, especially when I started up the business, because they were all my test
Of course they
subjects.
were.
But donuts have always held a little place in my heart. And then when I was pregnant with my first son, I had like a crazy craving for a English jam donut.
Right.
And there was nowhere I couldn't get them. Like a Tim Hortons jelly
No,
powdered donut
no,
was not
no,
cutting it.
no.
It just did not cut it. So a couple of years after I'd had 2 kids, my sister and I were she bought a deep fryer, and we were talking donuts or talking deep fryer stuff, and we were like, let's make donuts. Like one wintry afternoon, we're like, let's make donuts. And so we just started making them for fun. And it just sort of started that craving, that back of my memory feeling that I'm like, let's make donuts. And then it started to become one of those things, like cupcakes were really big. Everybody
Oh,
was making
cupcakes was
cupcakes.
huge.
Cupcake companies were everywhere.
Tons of it, yep.
Right, cupcakes were the new dessert.
Yep.
And I've always wanted my own shop. My parents were entrepreneurs. That, as I said, they came here, they started their own businesses.
So you came by this very naturally.
Well, and I had previously worked for my parents. Like, I mean, I've had a few jobs myself. I was
Yep.
a makeup artist for several years for MAC Cosmetics, and I love the creative side of that. And then I went into accounting, which was like completely the opposite.
that's a
like,
left- that's a left
right?
turn
It was like
there.
so the opposite of what I was doing. But accounting was great at that time for my period of life. And when my babies were young, that worked great, that job. But I was missing that creative side of me. It wasn't, I was baking for release because the desk job was killing me. So,
So
baking.
you were baking every night, probably.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
baking. Oh, yeah, I was baking. But so then we came up with an idea. Like my husband, once we stopped working for my parents, and we decided, okay, well, what are we going to do? My husband's like, we need our own business. You got it. Like, there's nothing like working for ourselves.
But it's scary. You're
It
like,
is.
okay.
Oh, let me tell
like-
you, I was terrified going into this. Like, I mean, I lost weight. I lost weight because of the anxiety. It was great, but it was terrifying just to just try this and do it. But you gotta, if you're terrified, it's probably a good thing a little bit.
Well, I think
right?
so. Yeah, at least
Yeah.
you're guarded about
Gotta be a
how
little
big
scared,
it is,
can't
right?
But I
Okay.
did my research, and we started out at the Port Credit Farmers Market. Like I knew couldn't just open up a store,
Right.
Right.
and just expect people to come. So I had to build my clientele. So we started at the Port Credit Farmers Market because we figured that was a good place locally where I was living and where I was in the community all the time because my kids went to karate locally. So while they were in karate, I was literally just walking around Port Credit every day while doing exercise, and just taking note of what kind of businesses do well in the neighborhood and what's lacking. And I was like, you know what? I want my own place. So we came up with the idea for donuts, and we were like, we're going to do it. So that's why we started there.
Because I see.
And what year was that? What year was that?
That was 2013, around 2012, 2000. Like
Okay.
we started doing this around at home in
Right.
2012, and then
Yeah.
in 2013 is our first market year.
Gotcha.
So it's very interesting because in this area walking around, like I see a lot of Italian bakeries,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is a very different.
Yeah.
It's not what we're
Well,
talking
that
about.
was actually one of the things that I was kind of hesitant about doing, because I know a lot of Italian. I have a lot of Italian friends. I grew up in a neighborhood that was generally Italian and Portuguese when I grew up. But most of the bakeries in our neighborhood are all Italian. And most of the ones that we used to go to locally were Italian. But I was like, so I was nervous about doing it, but I'm like, but I'm doing British stuff
It's
too.
different.
It's totally different.
It's not cannolis. It's not
No.
it's and I get, I'm going to Italian bakery because I'm getting bread, first of all.
Yeah.
I'm going for the bread, and when it comes to the pastry side of things, and, depending on what you like, I don't, if it's, tiramisu or all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you're talking about, and again, I get it having me mommy make me things.
Right? Like
some-
we make potato bread,
Yes.
which people are
Well, I
like,
love
what's
it.
potato bread?
Yeah, delicious.
Or
Delicious.
the Scottish people call them tatty scones. Like,
Right.
but it's like it's something that goes with your
soda
fry
bread.
up.
Do you make soda bread?
I don't make soda bread. I don't have a huge soda bread's like fairly easy to make, but I haven't had a huge request
for it?
for
Yeah,
that
okay,
one.
right.
But like our sausage rolls and Cornish pasties, those are very English. Scones, you can get scones anywhere, but like these are traditional British scones.
Yeah.
And a lot of most of the stuff that I make, 90% of it is all from recipes that my dad has given me.
Oh, see,
and
that
I
is-
brought
that's- I
up
go
with.
there for that alone.
Right. So I don't, and I also know, like, we make everything, like 90% of what we sell, we make in stock, in-house.
Yeah.
I don't use like commercial fillings and stuff like that. We make our stuff. So, like it's all from recipes that my dad did. So it just, I also can tell the difference in the like taste and the flavor.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Obviously, yeah,
Right.
exactly. So you have success at the farmers market,
Yeah.
and you make that step of that's going to be our location. Let's do this.
It took us a while to find where we wanted to be. We had a spot in Port Credit, like right in the perfect, like in the quieter strip of Port Credit where it's starting to build up again.
Yep.
But it was a good spot, but we had a lot of issues with permits and there's just getting all the stuff in line to get the business, like zoning and all that, was taking so long that we decided we can't keep that location.
Well, that's the politics of that
It
side
was
that people don't
costing
think
us
about.
money
Yes.
and to try and get things going, and I'm like, I can't keep waiting. Like,
Yeah.
I need to keep moving on this. And so we started looking elsewhere, but we still wanted to be local. And so we found our current location, which I remember this location from when I was a teenager, and there used to be a gas station there, and we would stop there to buy cigarettes and gas before we would go downtown. So like I knew the plaza, but it was also like local. But what I remembered about stopping and getting cigarettes and gas is that I was like, it's right off the highway, which means I'm like 10, 15 minutes from downtown. And so I get people that come from downtown.
Yep.
We get people from way further west. We get people from further north because we're right off the highway.
Because you can stop. It's convenient.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're going to hold on. We'll talk more with Sarah.
Oh yeah, we got
we're
it.
gonna
We got
keep
it
her
till
now.
9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
we're going to open up those donuts during the commercial
Oh, I
break, by
spoiled
the
you
way,
guys
too.
today.
So
Yeah,
There's some good ones in there.
we'll get it on Twitch too, so we can take a shot of that and get it out there because this is fantastic. Sarah, this is
589 North Service Road, right off of the highway. We'll talk more about that, Daddy O's Donuts, and I'll look at the traffic.
here's HUD. She looks like she's on that Food Network show about desserts. No, she totally looks like she's walking this on TV. That's what I'm saying. Fun interview. She's great. Yes, she is awesome. So we'll do more of that on the other side. First, we'll do a little traffic at 8:25.
Thanks so much, Mike. Here's what's happening in your area this morning as I kind of expand my map all the way into the Oakville area. Getting a lot of delays across the 403 near third line. It looks like there's multiple standstill reports as I'm just kind of jogging through. Take it from Burloak Drive all the way to third line, jam-packed as you make your way through Oakville into the Mississauga portion of your commute. Getting a notification also, Southtown Road, excuse me, near the 403 as you make your way into Etobicoke. Quite busy this morning. Error Mills Parkway and the 403 busy. Winston Churchill Boulevard and the 403, also a notification. 401, both directions, heavy traffic. Just seeing a lot of black on the highway, which tells me wet roads, heavy traffic, heavy volume. That's kind of what we're looking at here at 8:26 in the morning. Currently here in the city of Mississauga, we are sitting at 2 degrees Celsius to the negative. Feels like -6. Light snow expected to continue throughout the morning into the afternoon. Our daytime high will hit 0.
Coming out of the Hamilton, Niagara area, there were some earlier problems. You're going to see, actually, the 718, the Hamilton Go, is now going express from Bronte. So the next train from Bronte is 8:11 at that point. So that's where you're seeing that backup. Also, the 8:05 eastbound Oakville Go to Union Station is a 9-minute delay, but the train is moving. So you might want to look ahead as there are some issues coming out of the Lakeshore West here this morning. More donut talk. Yeah. Donut Corner. That's what we're doing this morning. 8:27 on News Talk Saga 960.
Your favorite morning show has a new home. Mike Richards and David Bastel, 6 to 9 weekdays on News Talk Saga 960. Brought to you by Bell Lifestyle Products.
Well, we've got one from Michigan, and here's Earring from Toledo. I'm ready for my donuts, Mike. Actually, a question. Now, you probably on a regular basis don't make Dutchies.
No, do you know why I don't make Dutchies? This is.
Are you listening, Hud? This is because this
the
is
only
for you.
reason I don't make Dutchies is because I don't like them.
Yeah. See,
Yeah, I know.
Hud does because he moved from Canada 19 years ago.
Yeah.
He's from like the Simcoe area, and he moved down to Michigan.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he said no one makes them. Well, it's because I never bought them.
Yeah.
As a kid, the guy never bought them. He likes them because they're the ones with raisins in them
Yeah,
and stuff.
see, I love raisins though. Don't get me wrong, I love raisins, but for some reason, I always called I always called them the crappy ones when I was a kid. But that was just me, and I know a lot of people. Like we do some things that have raisins, and I'm like, if people don't like them, I'm like, why don't you like that? I love raisins, but I guess it's you either
No, I'm
love
afraid of
raisins or hate them.
Yeah, I just hate them. I see them and it gives me the creeps. Like, what, you don't have chocolate chips? Well, I'm not good for chocolate chips?
Well, my youngest son is ticked that I don't do a cruller because that's his favorite donut.
You mean like the French cruller?
Yeah,
That's
so
my favorite, too.
he always says to me, "Can we go to Tim Hortons so I can get a cruller?" And I'm like,
No. There was a place called Cross Canada. All these little small regional places, and this was out in Ajax back in the smoking days.
Yeah.
And I loved the smell of the smoking donuts. Like I just did. That was a
Isn't
donut
it
shop
strange
to me.
though? Like there was like a
loved it.
weird I remember back in the day, Tim Hortons had like a coffee, donut, cigarette smell.
Yeah.
like it
it's the
went
best.
together. It
I
was
did.
weird.
From a small town, and I was like, oh.
Like even their
yeah.
cakes that they had in the store had that taste.
Yes,
you know what I
they
mean?
did.
It's like it absorbed it.
They had these French.
Right?
They had these French crullers that were like the size of my head,
Mm-hmm.
and with crispy because of the oil, so crispy on the outside, and then the texture of the kind of pastry,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, that was my oh my God, so good, so good.
Let's open these up just to get
Oh yeah. Well, I actually you. Oh, sorry.
Now, can we get how do we get a shot of that, Kels? What would be if David?
You would literally have to hold it up to the camera because the cameras are too high.
Right. If
Like if David were to put it and tilt it nicely,
Yeah.
he can do it. Otherwise,
so
you would have
I've
to
given you
manually
guys
tilt the camera downwards, but
tape off.
I would not recommend that.
So
Huds-
you got a few here. I've given you some these are the new ones that we're doing for
The
Valentine's Day. So what we're doing for Valentine's Day is we've got a special one. It's a.
talk about it on air.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Try to get so if David stands up on
He doesn't even have to stand. He just has to hold it like
tilt it?
shoulder length and tilt it forward, and that's the best I can do. I can zoom in manually and then zoom out.
A minute away.
We're 25 seconds away.
Okay, even better.
he's just because he can't just don't dump them.
Yeah, just don't dump
Yeah.
them here. Like honestly, yeah. And just leave them like that, and I will zoom in manually here on my side.
Oh wow.
Okay? But like when we're actually on air.
Does that work, Kels?
Yeah, exactly how you have it, I can work with that.
Oh, boy,
we
that
are
looks
coming
good.
back right now.
Right here on News Talk Saga 960.
News Talk Saga 960 is the new home for Raw Mike Richards. Brought to you by Bell Lifestyle Products. Also streaming live on saga960.ca. And now, from the Bell Lifestyle Studio, here's Mike and Dave.
Okay, the reason you want to be on Twitch is for the fact that David is now holding this handmade huge box of incredible donuts, and it looks like he's holding a newborn on camera. It's literally what this looks like. Now, if we wanted to send donuts, say, south of the border, let's say our friend Hud, we want to send him a box of donuts. Can you do that?
Well, I have had people FedEx donuts to places.
Yes.
I had someone FedEx them to Nova Scotia, like a rural area in Nova Scotia, and it took 3 days for them to get. But if it wasn't so rural, it probably would have got a little faster. But it did. I mean, they apparently arrived great. They were a little stale, though, because they were like 3 days later. But I've had them travel all over the place. People have brought them, like, Philippines. They've brought them to England. They've brought them to Calgary. They've brought them to Las Vegas. They've like, you name it. They've traveled.
Before I put these down,
David's mic's off.
You have a Valentine's Day. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Before you put them down, a Valentine's Day special here. Can you explain what you're
so the
making?
Valentine's one. This is a
Yep.
new one.
Yep.
I think I'm going to call this one the Spicy Suzanne, because my cousin Suzanne, who has been bugging me to do a spicy chocolate ganache donut for a
Yes.
long time. And that one it's got a spicy ganache, chocolate ganache on the inside, with a brown butter glaze and sweet and spicy pecans on top.
Wow.
That are to die for. Like, I had to stop myself from
Okay,
eating the pecans because they were so good.
Let me ask you this then. Tomorrow is a major donut
Oh,
day.
yes.
What time are you open at?
Well,
And
we open at 9.
Okay.
And
So get there at 8:30.
we usually on days like that, we usually do have a little bit of a lineup starting ahead
I
of time.
wasn't joking
Oh
when I
yeah,
said
no.
it.
And we it's funny because it's hard for us to tell people what's a good time to come.
Yeah.
Because especially on a busy day, because if everybody shows up first thing, we have a long line.
Yeah, you're going to...
and especially if they're buying in dozens, donuts disappear fast. If they're like our first set of batches can disappear really fast.
Like, so if we're looking
Yeah.
at sort of almost if I put it through the man hours that would go into some of these donuts, because you're making them fresh that
They
day.
take a lot. Like, people,
How
we've
long is
honestly been
that?
fooled to think that donuts are fast food, because this is not.
No.
This is a long process.
This is an art.
Well, and our dough is made 48 hours ahead of time. It has a slow cold proof. So we need to know, like, if people want to order donuts ahead of time, we need to, and we need to know what our normal batch would be plus orders. So that's why we usually need at least a couple of days notice for large orders.
Yeah.
But so, like, it takes a good long time to make a donut. The dough takes a while. Cutting, the dough has to be cut. We hand roll it and everything. It's cut. It's then has to proof, which takes anywhere between, depending on the donut, can take anywhere between half hour to 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Proof meaning...
Meaning that it's the second cut. So you roll your dough out, you cut your donuts, then they have to rise. You want
so-
them to pop up more. So they have a second proofing of about, and as I said, anywhere between a half hour to 2.5 hours for some of our donuts. And so, but then they get fried, and then they have to cool, and then we ice them. So it's not like I can just whip that out. And as I said, we make all our ingredients and stuff on there too.
Yeah.
So it's not a quick process.
We'll break down. We'll stop down here for traffic here, and then come back on the other side and get into more, because people are asking all kinds of questions. Okay, some of the questions some of them I'm not asking. Some of these questions here, clearly, I'm not going to ask. So we will stop down for traffic, as it is 8:35. Get you to work on time and tell you how to get to Daddy-O Donuts, because it's just spectacular.
Yep.
So we'll come back to more of that on the other side. Here's Dave in traffic.
Thanks so much, Mike. We are getting a couple different delays out of the QEW near Cawthra Road and here, Ontario. Some delays, just volume, basically, as you make your way through to the Etobicoke portion of your commute. On the other side of the queue, we're looking at a little bit of delay near here, Ontario, on the 403 as you're making your way up to the 401. That's also Matheson Boulevard East and the 403. 401, both directions, Tompkin, Kennedy. I'm looking at here, Ontario, on the 401, Mavis Road on the 401. It's just a little bit of a log jam of activity, such as the case at 8:35 in the morning. It's currently minus 2 degrees Celsius, light snow, daytime high of 0.
Checking the Lakeshore West, as I mentioned, if you've been following from Hamilton, the Niagara area on in. It's been sort of a tough day. There are a couple of more updates. The earlier ones as we went through, the latest that would affect our area, the 813, the westbound Union Station to Aldershot. It's a 6-minute delay, but the train is moving. Also, the 805 eastbound Oakville Go to Union Station is now a 10-minute delay, so you want to check ahead if you're leaving from our area and heading into the city. We talk more donuts and some questions from people from abroad right now.
Yes.
That's what's happening. Is 8:37 on News Talk Saga 960.
Hang on. There'll be more gambling, booze, and meat talk, sprinkled in with sarcasm, condescension, and insults. This is Raw Mike Richards, brought to you by Bell Lifestyle Products.
That is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So it's a cinnamon sugar on the outside with vanilla drizzle and then cinnamon toast crunch on top.
Do you want to switch boxes, Dave, and then
Yeah, I
you
was
guys
gonna
do it, and we'll get the
this
second
one has some of the like top. I mean, that one has some top flavors too.
I dip cinnamon.
Was that a video that you took? So Jordan,
Give you this one right here.
oh, this is my son Jordan. I don't know if you met Jordan.
Yeah.
So you took a video. Is that gonna? What are you putting that up on? What are you the video of the donuts? Are you gonna put it up on?
Instagram, yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're big Instagram,
Oh,
right?
huge!
Yeah.
Instagram is probably my biggest like social media
Okay.
draw. Huge.
Well, you're so visual. That's
Well,
why.
where
It's
Just
you know
like- just like-
pictures.
just like your
we say
website.
it's word of mouth with pictures. You know, like
Your website is like outstanding.
oh,
Like,
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Great logo. I love the logo.
Thanks.
Like the,
I knew exactly what I wanted for my style
Checkmark.
stuff because I'm very much into all that sort of
Yeah.
like
no, you,
retro
you-
50s
You
glam.
nailed it. You nailed it. This is great.
Thanks.
Okay, so I will look. Daddy O Donuts. And follow.
Oh, we're already following.
Yeah,
We're old friends.
right?
Okay, what is this?
Yeah, big sellers, maple bacon.
Yeah.
That's a huge seller.
This right here. What is this,
This
on top of the
oh,
donut?
that is actually my favorite donut.
Yeah, 'cause it
that's the
works-
carrot cake. That is my favorite one that we do, and that one is like super popular.
Are you a carrot cake guy, Dave?
I like carrot
Yeah?
cake as long as it has the right icing on top.
Oh yeah, it's gotta have the icing.
Cheesecake.
The only thing it's missing if you are a walnut fan with your or like if you like nuts with your carrot
Right.
cake, it's the only thing it doesn't have. We don't put the nuts on it just to make it.
I'm good either way. I'm not allergic to anything,
yeah.
so but I understand what you're getting at.
Yeah, unless there's a penicillin donut, then
Right?
then I'm out.
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
But see, I could
I'd eat
not.
that. I'd eat that too.
I could not work around a bakery because I would gorge myself. Number one,
It's
I would
hard.
gorge myself.
It's hard.
And then maybe you burn out and you sort of take a break. But I know it's that cycle's coming back.
Well, it's funny though. The more you're around stuff, you don't actually eat it as much.
Right.
And when my dad's story about like donuts too is like when he first started the bakery, they put him on donuts. That was his first job to do. He was rolling donuts. Wow. And they said to him, and my dad, they didn't have a lot of money, and they said, so my dad, they'd say to him, you know, like you can eat as much as you like. And so my dad was like, awesome. So he would eat and eat and eat. Like when he got to work, he would eat tons of donuts. And then apparently it took him something like 6 weeks before he stopped eating them. And they said to him, wow, you hold the record for the longest, for the first person in here to like, you know, go that long without
To
getting
stop,
sick of it.
To stop, exactly.
Yeah.
okay, I'm.
How long are we away?
Nah, 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
I'm
okay.
going to. Do you want me to play the song?
Yes, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Play a song, or do you need? Or is it too late?
What are you talking about?
The song-
Because we're coming on in 7 seconds.
Okay, so I.
Okay, there we go. We're just gonna.
Boys are back in town. You're listening to Raw Mike Richards, brought to you by Bell Lifestyle Products on News Talk Saga 960. And now, from the Bell Lifestyle Studio, here's Mike and Dave.
There's a traffic jam right now on Twitch. Two of them are not from Canada right now. You have two different states going at it. And now I see from the West Coast, from British Columbia, Wolf the Dentist
okay.
dancing.
Wolf the Dentist.
Am I the only guy who thinks bacon has no business being on a donut? Yeah, you're the only
you
guy.
are the only guy.
You are the
Sorry.
only guy. HUD just made mention of this, oh my God, cinnamon toast crunch. I got to find out when I'm back in Toronto. Don't worry, you'll get some. If it takes 2 or 3 days, it'll take 2 or 3 days, we'll get you some.
And that's what it was. HUD was obviously listening to our conversation
Yes.
during the
Oh, no.
commercial.
He was like,
let's introduce these to the rest of the general public. So the middle donut is the cinnamon toast crunch.
Cinnamon toast. Yeah.
We got the Homer Simpson on the top right,
Yep.
I guess that would be. The bacon one,
Maple
and
bacon, huge seller.
I bet.
wow.
Yeah.
And you told me about the carrot cake type one. That is-
Carrot cake, my favorite one. That's like
Really,
honestly,
eh?
most of us in the shop, like a good portion of us, that's one of our favorite ones.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many donuts do you have in the arsenal?
In my repertoire?
Yes.
I have, honestly, it's funny because I get this question all the time where people say, can you send me a list of what donuts you have? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I can't.
Because
I have
you probably create something
like
new
so
and
many
new and
things.
new, right?
Oh, are you kidding me? We could go out for dinner somewhere, eat something and go, oh my God, we should make a donut of this.
And then all of a sudden, poof.
Yeah, or we just like
creation.
talk food, and then the next thing you're like, that would make a good donut. Like we come up with stuff all the time, like because I'm a creative being and I like food,
Yeah.
so
Think
we
of
always,
things.
there's so many ways you can
Okay,
do a
so
donut.
why do I think? So I'm now envisioning we're going back into the past, going back into your past,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm seeing you and your family, dough flying all over the place, a lot of talk, and I hear this song in the background.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh my God, of course.
I mean, it's
It
gotta
was
be.
in my blood for so long there. I'm actually a little embarrassed to say I haven't been watching Coronation Street in the
Well, that's the
past
beauty
year.
of the show. It's been on for 500 years.
I know, but I went.
Original people are still on the
I
show.
think it's a little. I'm a little bit embarrassed because I went to England last year for a visit to see my cousin and my aunt, and I stopped watching after I got back. Because I was just so busy, and it was like, it's a commitment. If you're like a real
no.
Corey
Oh,
fan,
yeah.
you got 5 shows a week. Well, I don't know how many shows it is a week they're doing now, but like you got a lot to catch up on. And like if I went away on vacation, I had 2 weeks to come back and
Oh, yeah.
catch up on.
It's like a job.
And it always, everything always happened when I went on vacation. And like the one thing, the big show, the one thing I missed. So
I never need to what's going on, and Jordan can verify this. Sometimes I'm just bugged by everything else on television. So I flip it over, to CBC because it's on every night somewhere.
I still love it though.
It's on because I don't know what's going on, but it's either obviously in the pub,
Yep.
or there'll be some scene where a girl's upset, and the girl's going, "What are you talking about, Danny?
Yeah.
You never mentioned anything about her. I mean, you're always doing things like that all the time." He's like, "What are you talking about?"
That's a bit too.
Yeah.
That's a bit too north or south that you're doing there. You got a little bit in northern. You got to get a bit more, a little bit more drawl in there.
So people are like, people. It's funny if they've never seen it. There's brown people with that accent.
Oh,
there's
it's
black people with that
everybody,
accent.
right?
The Chinese people have
Yeah.
that accent.
Yeah, I love Coronation Street. As I said, I watched the show the other day and was a little confused because I'm like, wait, that person's now with that person. I'm confused, but I can pick it up pretty easy. Though.
It's
I
funny-
do love the show.
Off topic, but kind of on the topic. Same sort of thing. Eric Braden, Victor Newman
Yep.
from The Young and the Restless,
Yep.
is a regular guest on our show. And yesterday I was watching him talk to Jack,
Yeah.
and I did the same thing you just did there. He's, why would he be talking about?
Right.
Oh, I haven't seen it in so
Yeah,
long.
right?
That's exactly.
I
it.
actually watched Young and the Restless a little while ago just for fun and was like, oh my God.
Yes.
So and so has kids
Yes,
now, or
yes.
that show used to.
By
make
the
me
way, for our audience too, I'm not going to tell you a date, but Eric Braden is apparently making his return to the show in early. I'm going to say, I'm going to say middle summer, not early summer, but middle summer. I'm just letting you know.
Should we bring Victor on to?
I don't know. Should we bring Victor on?
He shows up on a regular basis and has for about 30 years on this show.
Not
Yeah.
the real one, a replica version.
But, well,
we
for
should.
a lot of people. So, ask Victor a question.
Ask Victor a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh, is he going to get back together with Nikki?
Let me tell you something, huh? I don't give a damn about you coming in with your baked goods and your delicious donuts. How dare you talk to me that way? It's none of your goddamn business, right? By the way, I think I'll have that spiced chocolate if you don't mind.
That is a good
Yeah.
Victor.
I had to do Victor to Victor one
You
day,
had to
and
do
there was a lot of
Victor to
pressure.
Victor. Oh yeah,
And
oh
we
yeah.
become friends, so now he's Eric.
There you go.
I saw that in person,
Yeah.
and it kind of.
Right?
He gave us
I'm
the.
very
he
good
gave
at
us
doing
the eyebrows.
imitations, and
Yeah.
I've done them.
Yeah.
I used to do them for a lot of people, and Yeah, you don't. You get a little nervous to see how they're going to react when you do them. Yeah.
A lot of them not as pleased
Yeah.
as you think
Yeah.
they would be, but he loved that one. That was pretty cool.
So Valentine's Day, big deal
Yeah.
at Daddy-O Donuts. Once again, 589 North Service Road in Mississauga. What other big dates do you have? I know I've talked to a couple other people, and they said a lot of times for birthdays they'll pre-order. They
Yep.
want 24 donuts for the birthdays, baptisms,
Yep.
weddings,
Yep.
confirmations, whatever the holiday is. But outside of your basic family holidays and dates like Christmas, is there any other days that you kind of sit back and you go, that's going to be big?
Super Bowl.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Interesting.
I'm not a.
Super Bowl.
My husband is the sportsy guy. I'm not the sportsy person.
Next time
I
you
love
come
that
on
you're
too.
saying. By the way,
Right?
I love that you're
I
saying
don't
sport.
sports.
I love you're sportsy. Sportsy
Right?
is awesome.
He is very sportsy. I mean, I do love hockey and basketball, but as I said, I'm not the expert on it.
Was your family footy at all? Were they footballers? Like, did they
You know,
follow like?
No, my dad was a dart player and cricket player. Like that's what he
Like
really
Eric
liked.
Bristol, 180.
Yeah,
That.
my dad was very good at darts. That's how basically he got here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they made
Nice.
money to get here. But
Okay, so Super Bowl.
yeah, so Super Bowl is a huge day. I had no idea that it was that big. It's one of our biggest days. Super Bowl.
See, I wouldn't have thought that, but
No,
it makes sense.
it
And
does,
in
it
my
does.
house, it
Well,
would.
it's an eating day.
Yes,
Any
it is.
eating days
Yeah.
are good days. I had no. I also had to start paying attention to donut days, which I didn't. I was like,
They're probably
it's
on social media,
National
right?
Donut Day and
Yeah,
International
yeah,
Donut
yeah.
Day.
When are those days?
Oh.
See, I don't
Whenever
know. I
we
don't know.
see
June
it on
1st is
our
one. I was
phones,
going to say, I
yeah,
think
it's
June
like-
1st is one of them, which when I was a kid was National Skip Off Day, so now it's now Donut Day. So some of those days like that. But sometimes it's just like winter. Winter is busy,
Yeah,
like winter is our
yeah.
busy time. I actually wasn't sure how winter would be, but I have discovered
That's I always
people
wondered about
crave
that.
carbs
right.
in the winter. The
Yeah.
cold weather, as soon as it gets cold, we get busier.
So, because we've talked a couple of times about those that will come in tomorrow or whatever, the different ways. If depending on what the order is, what is the best way to do that? I mean, if you live in the area, I
So-
guess you can drop by the store. But if you're not quite that
And
close,
it's a really good piece of information to people to have, because we only take a certain percentage of orders, because we still have to make sure we have enough donuts for walking
Correct,
customers.
correct.
And we have all these rules that we've had to come up with just because it just
Well,
works.
it's quality.
Well,
Your
it works
quality will
best
go
this
down.
way too. And especially because we have people that come into the store. I don't take same day orders. So if you want to place an order, you've got to have a minimum of 24 hours notice. If I've got availability.
Right.
And it is a prepaid. You have to prepay your order so that we can ensure that space has been paid for. If it's something custom, like you want something that's not on our menu, or for a wedding or for a
Right.
large volume or anything like that, I need at least. We used to say at least a week's notice, but I'm kind of need a lot more than that now because we book up really quick.
well, the time is the time. If you want quality, not something whipped together,
Yeah.
then you have to give that person. Because, as Dave said, it's
Well, and there's a lot
art
of
as
prep
much
work.
as anything
There's
else.
a lot
Sure.
of prep work that goes into that too, and especially if it's custom, or if you want something that's like we do printed icing donuts as well.
Yep.
That I need a good amount of time for. So, regardless, the best way to place an order, you can always call the shop.
Okay, so what about, so now that we're in the Guy area thing, and let's say it's a donut, and I want to give something to my brother-in-law, and I
Yeah.
wanted the donut, I want to say Louis Blows. Would you print that?
Well, if you send me like. I'm sure we can print that on a donut. Sometimes it depends.
Because you know
on,
what? Because you know what? He does. He does.
that I would have to I'd have to get a little graphic artist there and then do some work for me on that. But that we could do something like that. We have written things on donuts.
Oh.
It depends on the size of what you want to write.
Sure.
It's a donut. We used to do letter donuts. We don't do them anymore because they can be really unpredictable.
Yeah.
On when they put them in the fryer, they sometimes L's become straight.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
depending on what they want to do, sometimes they don't work out as well. So we don't do those as often.
Well, this is and has been just awesome. I mean, it's just, everyone's like, but I know what's going on. I see that boy over there.
Well, we've been
Kelsey's
talking
thinking
about
people
this
like,
this show for the last
Yeah.
I
No.
talked to you last week.
Yeah, I thought
10 days ago.
I thought it'd be good, but it's like freaking awesome. Like, this is just ridiculous. Now, here's your problem. You're going to see these faces now a lot
That's
more
okay.
than you wanted.
That's okay.
They're like, oh, here he comes.
That's all right. I'm in the back most of the time anyway.
Now, do you ever, depending who you're around, do you ever slip into the accent of where your people are from?
If I've had a drink, I definitely will.
Yeah.
If I've had a drink, I'll talk to in any accent. That's
Yeah.
the problem. I love accents.
Oh, that's
I don't know.
beautiful. Well,
Well,
that's
I have a bad habit though of picking up people's accents, not intentionally. I just sometimes, like if I'm around British people, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, brilliant, lovely.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I have a like. It's really annoying. Like if you're with me, and then all of a sudden, I don't. It doesn't matter where you're going. And so we're going to, I don't know, Dallas, Fort Worth. I'll tell you what, man. They're like,
I do the same
come
thing.
on."
Oh my gosh! If I
like,
go down to the states and the lower states, all of a sudden I'm Southern.
terrible.
I don't even know what Southern accent I'm doing.
All
I'm
of a
just
sudden,
doing
I'll
it.
tell you what, man. They're like, oh, look,
Yeah.
we're over Minnesota. Do you
Right?
do that?
Right?
Do you do Minnesota? We are so thrilled that you came in. As I said, being new to the community, like Dave and I are not from, it's funny. It's like you're either the east sider or you're on the west side,
Yeah.
and the two rarely cross. For those that understand, like I would, Scarborough and the
Yeah.
beach area and that side of Toronto and where over here I'm like, oh, the water still is over here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The Lake Ontario goes
Yeah.
all the way over, just so
Right?
you know.
Well, that's what people ask us all the time. Like, why'd you open in Mississauga? I'm like, because there's no other donut shops also in Mississauga. And this is my hood. This is
Yep.
where I want to be,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to have to go downtown to get a donut necessarily.
Oh yeah,
right? Or a good donut.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it's like I was always surprised. Like I thought Krispy Kreme, because it's the only one I know.
Yeah.
Well, there's two, I guess. There's
Yeah.
one in Kensington.
Yeah.
And there's one, of course, out in, was it Mavis Road or
Yeah,
something like
around
that?
Matheson, yeah.
And it's like, there simply has to be more than just mass manufactured baked goods.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out, and it's people probably who have been listening and certainly have been watching, when it's an art like this, you can't just pump it out like
Nope.
you're going into a McDonald's
Yeah.
and expecting to get a box that looks like that because you want them
Yeah.
like now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, but it's worth the wait. And as Sarah said beforehand, if you're interested in doing something custom, which I know a lot of people, their minds are going
Send
right
an
now.
email. Yeah.
And you know what? Be kind. If you know what's coming up in 6 months, well,
I honestly would rather people call me like 6 months in advance to get those spaces than because we have it happens a lot where people call like a week or a couple of days before and it's like,
no
I'm sorry,
chance.
we're booked.
Yeah, and if you even think so, if you thought it was a good idea 2 weeks beforehand, there's a chance that someone else thought it was
Yeah.
a good idea. And if you're third on that list, you're
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You're out.
What's funny on the Instagram page for Daddy O's Donuts, there'll come a time where you'll throw up a sold out sign.
Yeah.
And it's literally, no, you don't have any donuts
Yeah,
until
well, and
tomorrow.
we get that question all the time. Well, can't you just make more? I'm like, no.
Okay, so
Wow, it's not
not-
that easy.
it's not a
or
soft
so many
drink
people
machine.
said, can't you just like take some out of the freezer and throw them in?
No, that's
no,
the other place.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because guess what? So I have probably a very significant surgery coming up at the beginning of June. But when I am upright, the first thing I'm having is a Daddy O's donut.
Well, I got a feeling we're gonna not only go to Daddy O's Donuts as regular customers,
Yeah.
but we'll bring Sarah in every once in a while if she chooses
We'll
to
have
join
to bring
us.
in British stuff for you next
Absolutely.
time. For sure.
As a lot of people here, and including HUD and everyone else who's responding here on Twitch this morning, the backbone of the show is sports, but we live in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to talk about Kyle Clifford every day.
Well,
on the
hey, my
fourth line.
Raptors donuts were crazy popular when we did
I
that.
believe it.
So what did that look like, the Raptor
They were
donut?
just we did the printed donut. So what we had done was all the different players we had pictures of all the players.
Good idea.
And then they were just a vanilla dip with red sprinkles, but it was like
Oh, that's cool, though.
they were so popular.
So
Like
they were moving out.
oh, there was on any game day, pretty much every donut we were making was Raptors. We'd be like, what are they out of? What are they out of? What do they
Yeah.
need? More Raptors.
Yeah, more Raptors.
More Raptors. More Raptors.
So if the Raptors want to thank the championship ring,
Yeah.
you can
I'll
thank
party with
Daddy O's
them.
Donuts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Sarah? I don't know. They won a championship and she never came back.
I am now the official donut girl of the Raptors.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The donut queen, I want
Right?
to say.
That's me.
Is it don't say the queen?
Right?